Welcome to the launch of RYA Sailability's new Autism Guide. The guide contains practical strategies to ensure the best experience every time for autistic people when they go on the water. So why do we need a guide to autism and boating? Well, we all know that boating is fun, social and challenging. We also know that activity outside, on or near the water is good for you, both physically and for your mental well-being. We know that learning new skills or doing something you are good at is rewarding. We know that boating can build character and develop key life skills. However, many autistic people miss out on these benefits because organisations, instructors and coaches aren't always aware of the impact of autism, such as heightened anxiety in social situations, experiencing the sensory world differently, repetitive behaviours, and difficulties with flexibility of thought and communication. No two autistic people are the same, so taking the time to get to know the person will enable them to enjoy the many benefits of boating and bring the strengths they have to developing a lifelong love of being on the water. We thought the easiest way to explain why a guide is important was to have a chat with a couple of sailors on the autistic spectrum and also to speak to a parent of an autistic sailor to get their thoughts on the impact of sailing and let them tell you some of the important things that volunteers, coaches and instructors need to know. So we're going to start with Murray MacDonald. Murray's from Edinburgh in Scotland. He's a sailor and he's on the autistic spectrum. He's also the founder and director of Autism on the Water. This is a charity that raises awareness of the autistic spectrum through sailing. The charity races a 707 keelboat and organises canal trips for people with autism. I want to pick your brains a bit, Murray, about autism and sailing and everything. So my first question for you is, what was it like the first time you went sailing?
First time cruising or first time racing?
Oh, let's start with cruising and then we'll talk a bit about racing.
Well, I grew up with sailing, obviously. Big family of sailors. So when I was little, the grandparents and stuff used to take me out on their little wooden boat, a boat called Mahala, and we'd go just for stuff under engine roundabout. And I was very young at the time and didn't really understand a lot about what was going on. But I suppose what I loved about it was the scenery. You know, because we grew up in Oban.
But racing's your thing, isn't it? You like to race.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about racing, the first time you raced.
So my first race was 2005. I was 13 at the time. My dad had just bought a quarter tonner called High Pointer and basically got forced to like it, pretty much. And we did the Oban Town Regatta, and it's amazing when I say this. I hated it. I hated the heeling over. I hated the broaching. I hated the shouting. I hated it all. I kept saying to myself, I'll never do this again. Like, why on earth would you want to do a sport like this? It's wet, it's cold, it's aggressive. And then through time, I learned more about myself through sailing. I realized that I had to sort of man up a little bit, and it boosted my confidence big time. I made a lot of friends, people who genuinely liked me, which was nice. And yeah, by the end of that year, I was infatuated with it.
Fantastic. Is there particular things you like about sailing then? You said it gives you more confidence. Is it different to other sports? Is it different?
It's like when you're in like the workplace or when you're in a family gathering or something like that, you behave in a way that other people expect you to. And you behave in a professional way, you behave in an unprofessional way. But the moment, for me, the moment I step on board a boat, I become myself completely. Like, I am myself the moment I step on board a boat, whether that's getting on board someone else's boat to sit down, have a gin and tonic, or to basically go for a quick motor to test the engine, or lining up for the start of a big 30 boat regatta of 30 boats on the start line. That is when I become myself. I become more confident with eye contact to speak to people. I basically just come alive, pretty much. And it's where I'm always happiest, and I'm never down or depressed. I switch off everything from the outside world. Like, I don't watch the news, I don't phone anyone that are not sailors or anything like that. You know, I just become myself. And that's special, I think. And pretty unique. Some people struggle with sensory issues and loud issues. Some people permanently have their fingers on their ears. You know, like there's so many different types of it. And patience is the absolute must, especially when you're going sailing or boating in general. Clear explanation. So, for example, when we've gone on the canal trips, we always prepare each young person. We send a booklet out to the parents to show the children with pictures of life jackets, with pictures of ropes, with pictures of the lock gates. And we say, this is what you're going to be doing. This is how you open the lock. And then we explain it all again on the day. You know, we show them the life jackets, we show them how to put it on, and we do it twice.
Yeah.
Just so they're very clear. You know, and the important thing is if they get it wrong and wrong and wrong continuously, don't get frustrated, don't get annoyed, don't go like that. Just be patient, just keep explaining to them, and they will nail it.
Fantastic.
You know, so that's vital.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's some good advice. I'm going to change the subject slightly because we're coming to the end of a lockdown at the moment because of COVID-19. I wanted to ask you a bit about what you've missed about sailing. What have you missed when you've not been able to get on the water, Murray?
Lockdown's certainly been an experience, that's for sure. One I do not want to repeat, but what I've definitely missed has been the company that you meet from sailing, because obviously you meet a lot of people. I miss the preparation for a boat. So when we go racing on otters on the water, we spend a day putting the mast up, tuning the rig, putting the sails on. I miss all that. I miss the WhatsApp group messages before regattas going, right, who's picking up the sandwiches? You got all your kit. You know, I miss all that. And I guess I just miss the excitement of it and the constant busyness of it. Because last year with Otters in the Water, I was away so much. Like I spent the whole of May pretty much on board the 707, coming home for a day here and 2 days there, and most of the time. But this year I've just been at home. I now know every nook and cranny of my flat. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But yeah, I miss the whole thing. You know, and I just can't wait to get back out there.
Brilliant. Thank you on that one. Thinking about the future, thinking about what would you like to achieve? What do you want to do next in sailing? What do you want to achieve in the future? And what help do you need to do that, Murray?
Well, the benefit, and I say benefit of lockdown because you can find hidden benefits in a lockdown. You sit and have a long think about yourself and what you want to do in the future. And for me, I've thought more about autism in the water, what am I going to take forwards with that? So what I've achieved with lockdown is I've now got a full-time regular crew, 3 young girls, all members of the British Keelboat Academies, all have backgrounds and interests in autism, whether it's autistic relatives or worked with autistic people. And, you know, we have weekly chats on Zoom where we discuss what we're going to do next year. And they're not just a racing crew who are going to come and help race the boat. They're going to help behind the scenes as well. So planning potential open days, planning canal trips, all that stuff. It's just amazing stuff. And we're looking forward to going off on tour next year. We want to come and do some events in England, in Ireland, Wales, of course in Scotland as well. So that's been a benefit. I've also made a concrete plan of what I want to do with Autism Underwater in the next 5 years. So I've made the 50-50 project. So we've got half autistic side and half racing side. And it's trying to bring them together to create 50-50, creating equal opportunity and giving people equal chance to get out on the water as well as raise awareness of autism. And so we're looking to try and find a major investor to come into the charity, and having a major investor will really help us maybe buy a second boat with a wheelhouse in it, because obviously we have the 707, but you know, sometimes younger kids, they might not like being out in a smaller boat. So we want to buy a boat like a wheelhouse boat where we have steering as well as outdoors. So we're making big plans to try and find an investor to do that. We're also wanting to try and get some funding so we can actually fund conferences and courses for RYA instructors to learn about autism, and have days out where we take instructors out on the boat and we explain to them how to help autistic people with sailing.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Perfect. And before we finish, Murray, I want to ask you one more question. Can you tell me 3 really important things about autism that people need to know? So sailors with autism, what do people need to know? What are 3 important bits of advice?
Well, one that we've already talked about, autism is hidden. So always be aware of that. 2, again, patience, virtual, vital. And 3, always be understanding and always be accepting.
Yeah.
You know, that's the same with any disability sport. But with autism, always include them. Like if you're the only autistic person in a group of sailors, always include them. Include them at the table when you're having the drinks after sailing. Include them in the sailing. Include them in the conversations about what can be done better, what can we improve on. Always include them.
Brilliant. Thank you, Murray. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Next, we thought an interview with a parent would be useful to get their perspective on sailing and its impact. This is an interview with Marie Pears. Her son Logan is a keen sailor and is on the autistic spectrum. Marie is also a volunteer with Rutland Sailability. And how did you get involved in sailing? I know you're a parent and you're a volunteer, but how did you get involved?
I think Logan was probably 6 or 7 and football wasn't working, rugby wasn't working. We were trying to find something that he could feel that he was a team player, he could belong and achieve, but also gain the independence and not necessarily have to have the contact sport.
So I'm going to pick your brains a bit now, because you're a mum of a youngster with autism, but you volunteer at a sailability group. So tell me what you think is important for a sailor with autism when they go sailing.
I think it's trying to gain a good gauge of what the individual's needs are, what they're wanting to achieve. Some of the children that attend are quite happy just to go out and have a sail, and that is as much as they want to do, and that is perfectly fine. Then you've got other children that are working through the sailability books, and they need the praise, they want a bit more structure to that, and Logan is a child that thrives on that and has achieved so much with sailability. So for him, just taking that couple of minutes before you go out on the water to look at where they are, what the plan is for the day, going out on the water, and probably just downloading afterwards, knowing what good distraction techniques are if became anxious. Some children like to look at the animals and count the animals and look at the fish. It's just gaining that trust and getting to know the individual, and if just making sure, checking in that they have understood, and you'll very quickly then understand how much they've taken in on that day.
Cool. And when we were chatting before, you mentioned safety boat cruise, and you had a thought about safety boats. Can you explain that bit? I thought that was really interesting.
I think sometimes if the children are able to meet the whole team, as they walk in, they meet the reception ladies or persons on reception, they go and get the life jackets, and then they're meeting who they're going out with. But obviously sometimes the safety boat people have to be on the water prior to that happening. But just taking that time for the safety boat people to go across and say, hey, how are you today? And just so they know who it is. So if they do have to come in and give some extra support, it's not who the heck are you?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was really interesting. And I hadn't thought of it before until you said that this is, you don't want to be suddenly surprised by somebody when things are going wrong. Well, tell me a bit about the positive impact of sailing on somebody with autism then, Marie. What does it do for them? What do you think it does for somebody with autism?
I think, well, on my personal experience, I know a lot of the children that do sail on primarily a Saturday, we have the children. For Logan as an individual, he has achieved so much, and it's been able to be not necessarily the theory side that you have at school. It's been a practical learn as you go. Yes, there has been the knot tying, and as he's advanced, he's had to go into a bit more theory work, but it's broken down so that he's still enjoying it. And primarily for him, the enjoyment and his mental well-being and being happy is the key, because as I said to you previously, rugby, football, all these team sports where there was all these expectations just did not work. And Logan has been very fortunate that he's taken to sailing. He wants to end up at the world champs. He'd love to be in the Olympics. He's got dreams on the people that have made all of this happen for him.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, I want to ask you, before we finish, I want to ask you 3 important things about going sailing with somebody with autism. What do we need to know? 3 important, if you could say 3 things that are really important, right?
I think knowing if there's going to be any triggers. So for some children, when the boat starts rocking, that can be quite give them a lot of anxiety. So just knowing what a distraction technique would be, what are they interested in, what could you change a conversation to that's going to just distract their mind from what's worrying them. Making sure that they are understanding. Obviously everyone in life, whether they've got autism or not, understands and learns at a different level. So for Logan, reading a book generally, he struggles to take in what that content is. As he's got older, it's getting easier, but he's a visual learner. He picks it up by you showing him what to do. So gaining the experience of, can I help you put the boat together for it to go out? And, you know, working through those sailability books, and just they watch that they're achieving and they're building up to something, you know, usually their badges and the certificates, and being given the opportunity to start racing and the different things. There's a lot offered to them.
Gotcha. Brilliant. Thank you, Marie. Thank you for being interviewed.
No problem.
Finally, we have an interview with Ben Fulsham, who is a young sailor and another serious racer. Ben is on the autistic spectrum and is a member of both Oxford Sailability and Daughters of Sailing Club. The difference between Murray, who we interviewed earlier, and Ben is that Ben has discovered sailing in the last 2 years and is not from a traditional sailing background. However, there are some definite similarities in how both Murray and Ben see sailing and what they get from it. We're going to talk a bit about your sailing, Ben. I mean, can you tell me what it was like the first time you went sailing?
Back just over 2 years ago, I was able to go on a tall ship in the West Country with the Island Trust. That's with my special school. It was a new experience, and I really enjoyed getting involved in sailing much more than I thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
And after I came back, we looked for other places where I could go sailing, and we found Oxford Sailability. So I sailed there, and the first time I sailed there I sailed for over an hour, but with a buddy in some quite light winds, because I wasn't really that scary. And I found it very relaxing. I forgot about my worries. I had quite a lot of worries with autism and anxiety. So yeah, I forgot about the worries at the time, and it was also really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. So what you've mentioned your worries. What do you particularly like about sailing then?
Well, I like that you can sail, and it's just focusing on the sailing, of focusing on a main sheet or focusing on strategy or something, rather than thinking about the worries that I think about constantly. I also find it's just quite fun to sail around quite fast. It's also, there's a nice bit of freedom you get from it,
Mm-hmm.
Which I quite enjoy. I like technical stuff, so I quite like the technical stuff about the boat, and also the skills that you learn through sailing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know what you mean. So if tell me about volunteers at sailability groups. What do they need to know if they've got somebody with autism who's coming sailing?
But I think the most important thing, I can't really order it, but is the language that you use to communicate. It is very important, as autistic people quite frequently take things very literally. So it's much easier to, and the other thing is, it's much easier to explain, to learn something if we are shown how to do it, rather than being explained.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I would just I'd be sailing out, it'd be explained to me 5 times how to do something I don't know, and then when I'm shown how to do it, I actually learn how to do it.
Yeah, gotcha. Makes sense. Well, we've had this lockdown going on, Ben, and we've had all the COVID-19 and everything going on. I've not been able to go sailing. Can you tell me what you've missed about sailing? What do you miss when you can't go sailing?
Well, this time is a very sort of stressful time for all of us. And I think sailing is a great escape from that. So you can go sailing, and it's just sort of, it's what's on the lake is on the lake, rather than worrying about pandemics things. So the escape from the world it gives me, that's one thing I miss. I also miss the sort of general enjoyment from it that I get from sailing around and sort of having fun. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Well, I've got a good question for you. What do you want to do next in sailing, and what do you need? Help do you need? What have you got planned, Ben?
So the main thing that I have planned was to do more events, more regattas, both sailability regattas and the other access classes. So I was planning to do the multi-class or the challenge of 40th. And to do this, I would need to borrow a boat, and sometimes there's some regattas that are a bit further away than Farmore. We'd have to take a boat and borrow it for a weekend. The other thing I wanted to sail faster access boats. I've been sailing the Hansa's 2.3, which is very nice, but also a bit slow. And I've wanted to sail the Challenger, well, one of the Challengers at Farmore, Oxford Sailability. I also want to sail a 2.4 metre, which we don't have Oxford Sailability, but I'm hoping I can go somewhere, don't know where it would be, but go somewhere that has one that I can sail.
Before we finish, Ben, can you tell me 3 things you think are really important for people to know about sailors with autism?
I'd say the most important thing about sailors with autism is that every autistic person is very different. So some people say you've met one autistic person, you met all of them. That's the opposite of what it is. If you met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. So we all need support, but we all need slightly different support. What works for me might work for someone else, but it might not.
Yeah.
It's not a one size fits all. The next, I think, is also we need a bit of sort of processing time, as I call it. If we're told 5 things in a row from several different people, it just sort of we can't. It's as if nothing's been told. It's as if we've not heard anything at all.
Yeah.
And I sometimes say, just stop for a minute and say it slowly. So don't ask too many questions, or just give them. If you give too much information, we can't follow any of it.
Gotcha.
The last thing I'd say is we can very easily become overwhelmed. I'd say by too much noise is one thing. Another thing is you've got too many people, or this one applies to sailing especially, is too many boats together. If you've got to think about racing, you've got a windward mark and you've got 10 boats within 3 boat lengths, that can be a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I find that the best thing, I think a lot of other autists will find this, is to move to quieter spaces. Could be on shore, you could move to somewhere else on a beach or a pontoon, wherever, or it could be on the lake. You just have to be allowed to sail off somewhere else.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for being interviewed.
Thank you.
So where can I find the guide? Well, you can find the guide on the RYA Sailability website, and there's also a link below this video. So what if we need some further support? Well, you can contact your RYA Sailability Regional Disability Development Officer, and there is a link below to contact them.